You must undergo a clinical audit of the concept of insurance to realize that it is a financial instrument built on the arbitrage of human anxiety. The insurance industry does not produce value, it produces probability shields. They sell you a contract that promises to protect you against disaster, but the underlying mechanics are designed to ensure that the house always wins. They utilize your biological fear to extract a steady stream of capital from your laboratory. By paying for insurance, you are effectively betting against yourself. You are telling the universe that you do not trust your own sovereign shield to withstand the friction of reality. In the logic of the sovereign architect, this is a psychological leakage. You are funding the empire of the middleman with the resources you should be using to build your own dynastic fortress. The social contract of insurance creates a false sense of immunity. When you are insured, your brain perceives that the risk has been removed. This leads to moral hazard, a softening of your defensive edges. You become less vigilant, less prepared, and more reliant on the bureaucratic savior. You have traded your survival instinct for a legal promise, but the promise is hollow. When the black swan event actually occurs, the insurance entity activates its exclusion protocol. They use fine print to deny your claim, leaving you vulnerable exactly when you were promised protection. You have spent years paying for a shield that dissolves the moment it is struck. You have purchased peace of mind that was never yours. It was always a temporary rental subject to the terms and conditions of a parasite. Furthermore, recognize the opportunity cost of fear. Every dollar you pay in premiums is a dollar that is not working for you in your hard asset bedrock. Over a decade, the amount of capital lost to insurance leakage is often enough to have built a self-insurance reserve that you actually control. By giving your capital to the insurance company, you are allowing them to invest it, to gain the upside, and to build their sovereignty. You are financing the very systems that seek to domesticate you. You are essentially paying for the privilege of being a customer. The sovereign architect chooses self-sovereign risk management. He builds enough capital and redundancy that he becomes anti-fragile. He doesn't need a contract to feel safe. He has a citadel. The ultimate goal of paid safety is to keep you tethered to the grid. Most insurance is tied to your status as a consumer or an employee. If you lose your box, you lose your safety. This creates a psychological anchor that prevents you from taking the leap into sovereignty. You stay in the wage cage because you are afraid of losing your health coverage or your liability protection. The system uses your need for safety as a leash. By rejecting the paid safety of the masses and building your own capital shield, you cut the leash. You discover that security is not something you buy from a corporation. It is something you architect through competence. Finally, you must realize that true safety is active, not passive. Insurance is a passive shield. It sits there and waits for things to go wrong. Sovereign safety is active defense. It is your AOXI 3 velocity, your ability to pivot, your sterile zone focus, and your shadow network. When you are the primary source of your own protection, you are truly free. You are no longer praying to a corporate god for a payout. You have moved from paying for safety to being the safety. You are the architect of your own survival, and your peace of mind is an internal fact, not a commercial product. To dismantle the paid safety protocol, you must understand the actuarial betrayal. Insurance is designed to function only in normal environments where risks are predictable and linear. But the world of the Titan is defined by non-linearity, the black swan events that no spreadsheet can predict. When a systemic crisis hits, the insurance company does not become your savior, it becomes your counterparty. Their survival depends on not paying you. In a true collapse, the paid safety you've rented evaporates instantly. The sovereign architect recognizes that the only insurance policy that pays out in a crisis is his own adaptability and hard assets. The first law of sovereign risk is the priority of liquidity over promises. A policy is a piece of paper that promises future value. Liquidity is the physical or digital presence of value now. While the normal person is paying thousands in premiums to a corporation that might go bankrupt, the architect is funneling that same capital into his sovereign reserve, Bitcoin, physical gold, and high-velocity cash reserves. This is self-insurance. In a crisis, you don't file a claim. You deploy your assets. You don't wait for an adjuster. You execute your pivot. You have replaced bureaucratic latency with executive immediacy. You are the only person who can guarantee your own payout. We must then analyze the myth of legal recourse. Most people pay for liability insurance because they believe the legal system will protect them if they are sued. This is a social delusion. The legal system is a war of attrition where the person with the most stamina and the least to lose wins. A paid shield makes you a fat target. When a predator sees you are well insured, they are more likely to attack because they know there is a corporate check at the end of the tunnel. The sovereign architect practices strategic poverty and asset obfuscation. By owning nothing in his own name and placing his assets in the trust architecture of his dynastic shield, he becomes unsuable. He doesn't pay for protection. He makes himself invisible to the tax on stupidity. The second law is the optimization of biological and technical redundancy. The most common insurance trap is health and disability coverage. The system wants you to believe that safety is a monthly premium. The architect knows that safety is metabolic resilience. He invests his insurance capital into the food filter, high-tier supplementation, and laboratory equipment. He is insuring his meat machine through preventative hardening. Simultaneously, he builds technical redundancy, multiple income streams, diverse platforms for his YouTube war, and shadow networks of collaborators. If one node fails, the system stays online. This is structural anti-fragility. You are not covered by a policy. You are built to survive the impact. Finally, you must master the psychology of the uninsured king. When you stop paying for safety, you experience a biological awakening. Your survival drive comes back online. You are no longer relaxed by a false sense of security. You are vigilant. You move through the market with the AOXI3 intensity of a man who knows that he is his only backup. This vigilance prevents 90% of the disasters that the normal person blunders into. You don't need a fire policy if you've built a fireproof life. You have moved from paying for peace to earning peace through competence. You are the ghost who cannot be trapped by a contract because you have already accounted for every variable within your own sterile zone. The final stage of dismantling the paid safety protocol is the transition from risk mitigation to risk domination. You must realize that in the 21st century landscape, there is no such thing as a safe state. There is only the state of being too powerful to fail, while the herd spends its life force paying premiums to protect their mediocre status quo. The sovereign architect utilizes that same capital to fund his asymmetric expansion. You are not trying to prevent loss. You are building a system that captures the volatility of the world and converts it into your own kinetic energy. This is the ultimate sovereign assurance. The knowledge that no matter what black swan event hits the horizon, you have the AOXI3 velocity to outrun the fire and the capital fortress to buy the ruins. The first pillar of sovereign assurance is the optionality engine. Insurance is a fixed bet on a specific catastrophe. It is rigid. Sovereign assurance is based on aggressive optionality. By retaining your capital instead of bleeding it into premiums, you maintain the ability to pivot in real time. If a market collapses, you don't file a claim, you buy the bottom. If a jurisdiction becomes hostile, you don't wait for a payout. You teleport your assets to your next node in the shadow network. You are treating risk as a discount on the future. Every crisis is a liquidation sale of the week. And because you are the only one who didn't rent his safety, you are the only one with the dry powder to capitalize on the chaos. You have moved from victim of circumstance to architect of the aftermath. We must then analyze the psychology of the untethered titan. The insurance trap creates a subconscious dependency on the system. It makes you a stakeholder in the matrix. You want the system to survive because your safety is tied to its contracts. This makes you controllable. The sovereign architect is psychologically decoupled because your safety is built into your hard assets, your metabolic resilience, and your proprietary code. You have no sunk cost in the old world. You can watch the insurance empires burn with the cold desolation of an observer. Your peace of mind is not a financial product. It is a biological fact. You are the ghost who is immune to the systemic shakedown because you have nothing for them to protect. You are your own guardian of the threshold. The second pillar is the endowment of self-sovereignty. You are the ancestor zero. Your goal is to build a perpetual reserve that renders the concept of insurance obsolete for your entire lineage. You are creating a dynastic fund that acts as the lender of last resort for your future people. Instead of paying a corporation to protect your children, you are the protection. You are building a private insurance fund that is governed by your sovereign will, not by actuarial tables. This fund is invested in productive reality, land, energy, and sovereign technology. You have turned fear-based capital into power-based endowment. You are not just safe, you are formidable. Finally, master the aesthetics of risk domination. There is a specific status signal sent by a man who carries his own risk. It is the radiation of absolute competence. When you don't seek permission or protection from the system loses its moral authority over you. You become illegible to the herd. They cannot understand how you can be so calm in such uncertainty. The answer is simple. You have replaced external assurance with internal sovereignty. You have realized that the only safe place in a world of entropy is at the center of your own intent. You are the sovereign monument that stands alone, protected by the void you have mastered. The paid safety was a cradle. You have broken the cradle to build a throne.